Welcome to the Virginia Consumer Podcast, where we focus on regulatory policies and how they affect the lives of the citizens of Virginia.
Our very first episode, we're really happy to have you here. My name is Andy, and this is Marty.
Hello.
We're here to create a platform and a space for Virginia consumers to come and share their stories and to gain information and insight when they are either living in the state or deciding on moving to the state, especially in regards to home construction.
Yeah, Virginia's been referred to as a buyer beware state. We want to shift that to a buyer be aware state.
Yeah, that should be our new tagline.
That's a good one, right?
Yeah, I like it.
Real time.
That's what we're here to do.
Trending.
Yeah. A little background on us. We built a home during the pandemic. The construction was not awesome, to say the least. We had a ceiling collapse, mold, remediation, and now our daughter is currently battling gluten intolerance as well as ticks and neurological effects from all of the exposure to all of the toxins. So we find it really important that there be transparency in government, that there be regulation that protects children and their families, and that you should be able to buy a home and feel safe. I guess just to have a regulatory board that will actually look into violations, misdemeanors, and crimes and promote them appropriately to authorities. And we didn't find that to be the case. And after seeing an article about a Northern Virginia group of people who were affected by a contractor getting some resolve and DPOR making the claim that they had actually promoted it to the Attorney General, I decided to do some more digging, and we're going to have a whole series about that coming up.
Yeah, I think when we first started, well, not first started, but we got to a certain point of frustration and desperation and just to vent, we started doing some recording. And that was out of a lot of anger, a lot of we were in a bad place, but we really wanted to expose it, what was happening to us and just the conditions that were allowed to exist. But we've had now a few years of not giving up and continuing to fight and also continuing to pull documents and audio recordings and all the fun stuff.
The more you dig, the more you realize, yes, we've been hurt by the system. We are always going to be hurt by the system as it stands, but it's so many different tentacles that you have to really start to work with other people. And that's kind of what this has become. We've turned into watchdogs ourselves. Now we're looking for all of the other watchdogs to come here and join us, because I think after researching this story, hearing Jennifer say, I don't know exactly
how do you spell her name?
It's Jennifer, Sayeghh. She's the Policy and Legislative Affairs Manager at the Department of Professional and Occupational Regulation. And she said in writing to a reporter that she had promoted the case that the reporter was investigating to the Attorney General, which I found to be odd based on my experience in speaking to her and how often she, I guess, tried to reroute me anywhere but to the authorities. Mm-hmm. So it was like a total about face. So I said, oh my gosh, let me look into this. What do you do when you need to know the truth and you're dealing with the government? You get a FOIA request in.
Well, I think when you're dealing specifically with Virginia, I mean, I was a big state rights guy and wanted as little federal intervention as possible. And I was wrong. Based on this experience that we've had, if not for the federal government and FOIA, we would have no information and evidence that was buried. We could talk about it, but we couldn't prove it the way that we can now.
Right. So I didn't believe her. I'm gonna just say that. My own personal opinion, dealing with this organization, I didn't believe that they actually promoted the case to the Attorney General. Not to mention the fact, why would you? It's not really his jurisdiction to deal with personal legal cases. If you have a civil case, that's already not in the wheelhouse of the Attorney General based on our current laws and regulations. So I didn't believe it. I first went to the Attorney General because I knew DPOR would obviously recognize my name. And I made my FOIA request and they came back fairly quickly. No, we've never since. And I asked specifically, since January 1st of 2020 to the present, how many cases have been referred to your office by Jennifer Say in particular, by any employee of DPOR, by any of its officers, by anyone associated with DPOR itself? How many cases have been referred to your office? And they very quickly came back with easy peasy, none. Zero. So I thought, oh my gosh, I caught him, right? So she said she did it. I'm going to go and send a FOIA request to DPOR just to verify, to cover my own self. Because I know dealing with Virginia authorities, they talk out of both sides of their mouth sometimes because they want you to make a mistake. They want you to say something that's not true. Allegedly. I can't say that. I don't know how they feel on the inside. But in my experience, they're really happy when you look dumb. So I wanted to just, cross my T's and dot my I's. So I did a FOIA request with DPOR. And wouldn't you know, the Attorney General, right after I did that, contacted me back and said, oh my gosh, we made a mistake. We've got to do some more searching. We might be wrong on that. Well, how would you know? Like immediately after I had asked DPOR for verification, so I'm like, oh, convenient. And DPOR took their full 5 days. And then on the 11th hour, the 5th day, said that they needed 7 more days to give me an answer. And I just wasn't going to take it. It was not even the 5th day. I had given them extra time for snow days, and there were other holidays. So they'd had almost 14 days to answer my question already. And I just told them, if you don't give it to me by Friday, end of business, then I'm going to file, and try and get this compelled. And wouldn't you know it, they suddenly were able to come back and there was one case. And then the Attorney General's office verified the same, one case. Just in the last 4 years, how many cases? So I think DPOR deserves a deep dive. I think that considering their contractors board represents 30% of their regulants, but half of all of their complaints, something's up.
Well, that one case, I don't know if you connected the dots on that when you explained it, but that one case was the case that was going to the media.
Right. I thought that was, okay, maybe I missed that. Yeah, that was the only case.
The
only one, So this is where we get into that gray area of my experience as a Virginia consumer is that I had a problem, possible alleged misdemeanors in our case. We provided all of that proof and we were systemically shut down and it felt discriminatory. I'm going to tell you right now, I've not been spoken to the way that I have here. They classified me as angry when I asked for clarification, and most of our communications were by email. So I don't know how you would get angry for my emails, but
we also don't know how satisfied you're going to be when your ceiling collapses from a flood, when you find 3 fires, when you have 2 full mold remediations, when your floor is having beetles eat through it and it's called cabin grade, when the materials are swapped out. And then beyond the builder and his performance, you deal with the attorneys, you deal with the regulators, you deal with the politicians or fail to deal with them. And then their underlings perform CYA to every length you could imagine.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
And you can say, well, they didn't know about us and certain people weren't aware. And how would they have reached out to you? Well, they put us on a constituent tracker. And that tracker has not resulted in a phone call from a concerned public official or anyone else even wanting to ask us about our story.
No, we got put on a constituent tracker because we had the audacity to notify the governor that possible misdemeanors were being ignored by the regulatory board. So we were given the gift of being added to a constituent tracker. Our case didn't get very far because we didn't go to the media first. We followed the laws and the regulations as defined by Virginia. We took all the appropriate steps. We notified everyone right away when there were issues. We took our case to DPOR and we also filed a civil suit. Thank God. If we hadn't done it at the same time, we would be in trouble right now because DPOR took so long to handle our case. We would have been out of the statute of limitations. I also want to bring to light things like the Virginia Home Builders Association, who are very proud to have been working since 1997 to reduce the statute of limitations for any kind of issues with your home and a new home purchase. These are all things that I wish I would have known before we made a deal, before we had a purchase contract. I think that my biggest goal is that no one else in the state ever have to experience what I've had to experience because of mold toxicity. I'm praying that no kid is going to have to go through the medical procedures mine has, be stunted in growth, or have any kind of side effects. I want everyone to have access to a safe and healthy home with good air quality, built in a way that makes basic sense.
Yeah.
Basic sense.
And for anybody that might be on the right side of the political aisle, when we say have access to a safe and healthy home, we don't mean paid for by somebody else. We mean you get what you paid for, what you contracted someone to do. They deliver it, and they deliver to the agreed upon standard.
Yes. And I want to focus in on DPOR because a lot of their standards are written. It says you're not to swap materials, right? That happened in our case. You're not to lie to the board. Well, we caught lies in writing. Mm-hmm. It was very obvious. You can check the dates. It's obviously a lie. I mean, in our case, our builder went so far as to tell DPOR that we didn't need to continue in this case because we were working together. And when you check the timeline, he's referring to when he was served with a civil lawsuit. I don't consider us working together because I've sued you. These are the kinds of things that DPOR says would warrant the revocation of a license. You're not to lie to the board in defense of something you've done wrong. It's very clearly outlined. They refuse to even consider the case, and they whittled down 500 documents to maybe 9. So they need transparency. I'm happy to do it. I don't think it's the responsibility of the state to play watchdog. I'm happy to do it for them. There are other people who are also willing to share their expertise so that you're not wasting your time with people who would harm you. I think there are tons of good realtors. The fact that that case came to light because a realtor said, no, I was part of this purchase. I'm going to help my clients to get justice. I'm going to contact a reporter. I'm going to talk to DPOR. I'm going to make sure that people know what you did was not okay. That's a great realtor. That particular realtor should have some time in the sun. I don't think we give realtors like that enough credit. I mean, ours, when we contacted ours, told us to lawyer up because we asked, did you check the insurance? That's why we hired you.
We asked, did you check? Can you tell us if you did or did not? This was the question. Did you or did you not ask or verify that they were properly insured and that their subcontractors were properly licensed? Did they say yes? No. They said lawyer up.
Yeah.
That was what our realtor, when we tried to, another real estate firm in the area, when we tried to sell our home, we wanted, by law, we have to disclose all the known defects. So we did not put together a flowery review of what the house was when we went to list it. The realtor we signed with agreed to that, took the listing. The brokerage that he worked for went in, totally changed it, and made it just this sunny listing of nicest because they didn't want to say anything.
Nothing was wrong with our house.
They didn't want to they didn't want to follow what is allegedly the rules, the law, because they didn't want to have a bad image or a bad relationship with contractors.
Right. So the inference was disclosure will happen when it happens, but we don't want to get sued by the builder.
Yeah.
So let's not properly inform people and not waste their time and tell them, hey, my house has issues.
Yeah.
Let's just make sure the brokerage doesn't get a lawsuit. So,
or ruffle any feathers, because you're only going to buy one house every so often.
Right.
You want to maintain that deal flow. So this is what we're talking about. So it is kind of coming back around. I don't know how you're going to put this, but the other thing is the thing that I noticed early on was everybody said, don't mention the name of the builder. Don't talk about the builder. Don't mention the builder. They'll sue you. Even if everything we say we can prove, that was the sentiment out here. And I think that there's a phenomenal opportunity here to say, okay, what if we don't mention the builder? Well, what if we talk about the person that oversaw the hearing and said, no fault for the builder for lack of evidence when we have a mountain of evidence? What if we talk about this attorney and how they buried us, misled us, pushed us aside? how they went to the media, and we name these people by name and we point out who they are. I think that's the sweet justice, because you can't stop us from doing that.
Right. Well, it's basic investigative reporting, just like the muckrakers, right? So we're going to go back to grassroots. There's no certification for journalism. So if you have a story to tell, you're allowed to tell it. As long as you are being truthful and accurate, it is not a crime to tell your story. And that's what the Virginia consumer is here to do. We're going to share that burden with you. We're going to remind regulators that we do have freedom of speech here. This isn't Little Britain. This is America. And if I have something to say, I'm going to say it. And I'm really sorry for you if you would rather me be quiet, but I have the same rights as you. I have the same rights as the builder. So that's what Virginia Consumer is going to be about. I want to get as many stories out there as humanly possible. So if you've got a story where you were wronged by a contractor and the media doesn't seem too interested, or you've got some sort of product recall issue, we'd love to talk to you and have you on the show. I don't mind hosting you and helping you to get some traction. And that's what we're here to do.
We worked really hard to get local media attention on our story for a long time, and we couldn't get any. And I think that's by design. And you say, well, how can you say that? Well, there's a recent case where someone had a bad home situation. They put up a sign, our builder did a bad job. He's selling the house next to ours. Before you consider buying that, take a look at our house. They threw a $2.4 million defamation lawsuit against those people. And that story, we're gonna dig into that in detail. But that story, it was on the Daily Mail. So I thought to myself, well, I betcha that nobody in Greater Richmond has reported on that. I bet you that's not anywhere to be found, even though it's based, the couple's in Richmond, Virginia.
They're in Chesterfield.
Chesterfield County. Okay.
It's our county.
Our county, Chesterfield County. I looked it up. This was March 1st, early in the morning. I did a Google search in the news section, and I found three links for the story, none of which were media outlets, newspapers, anything for Virginia, and specifically nothing for Chesterfield County or Greater Richmond. None of them. So those people they have to get attention because the system is not going to support them. So we're going to support them. We're going to give them a long form platform to come and tell their story. We're going to post what's actually happening. We're going to put up the stories that are unpleasant and not politically favorable, but protect people.
Beyond that too, let's talk about the fact that we all know that there is a problem with humidity in Virginia, and the code as it stands right now is antiquated. Most HVAC systems have been installed without any kind of consideration for the humidity of the area. All of the reports that they use to justify installation code are from factories where HVAC systems are tested inside of conditioned environments. So if it's already in a conditioned environment, guess what? You don't have a problem with condensation. But for some reason, we definitely have a problem with condensation in Virginia with our HVAC systems. And it's because they're installing them under the house in unconditioned areas. They're crimping these plastic ducts and not taking the time to use hard ducting. That's all come about because regulations are so loose that they're only having to prove that things are working to the minimum standard. If we can get Virginia to look at their HVAC systems and their codes and change that, we will change lives, because where there's condensation, there's mold. And I don't know of anyone who wants compromised air quality, because the regulatory system is just so far behind the times. The more energy efficient we get, the tighter the homes get, the less air exchange there is, the more opportunity for mold when moisture gets trapped. We need to do something. So let's report together. Let's come together, tell our stories, find each other, and create a movement.
Yeah, I think the good news too is that the fact that change, even in this compromise story of Northern Virginia, which was kind of, in my opinion, a lot of CYA on the part of DPOR, obviously. But either way, the fact that once it has attention, they make changes means that's good news. We can change things once we have attention. And the second piece of good news is Virginia's still within the United States. This isn't the UK where you don't have free speech and it's a colonial caste system. It's still America. So Virginia needs to be reminded, I think, every so often, you're still part of the union and there are minimum federal standards you'd have to adhere to.
Right. And someone needs to regulate the regulators. So, a little daylight will help.
Well, we're gonna make the case on a lot of different things, and along the way, as we're reporting on different people's stories, as I said, we're gonna use our story. We're gonna provide the documents, speak to them, name the names, so you can see how good a job they've done, and then you can decide: do they deserve their position? Do the systems deserve the authority they've got, or do we need to have a serious conversation about reform and transformation?
That's going to be our next focus, is finding more guests and more people to share their stories here at the Virginia Consumer Podcast. If you want additional information or you'd like to read more about our story or the stories of others who are dealing with similar issues in Virginia, go to virginiaconsumer.com. Find us on socials. Make sure that you like and subscribe wherever you can to anything that we do, because there is power in numbers.
Yeah, and if anything, this whole situation proves that when there's awareness, there's change. So all you got to do is go to the website, subscribe, and push it to one of your friends. It's going to be all the change you need. You say change. It's free. Change doesn't come. Watch how fast it comes.
You don't have time to run a report. That's great. Just give us a like on some sort of social media that you actually pay attention to, and that's great. That helps.
Thank you for listening to the Virginia Consumer Podcast. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. This podcast does not constitute professional advice or services. This includes, but is not limited to, legal, financial, medical, or health advice. Always seek the advice of a qualified professional. We are not responsible for the accuracy, completeness, or validity of any information on this podcast. We will not be liable for any errors, omissions, or delays in this information, or any losses, injuries, or damages arising from its display or use. Opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the Virginia Consumer Podcast or its staff. Likewise, the opinions expressed by the hosts are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the guests.